What morbid facts do you know? If bodies are kept in coffins that are sealed tight enough, such as in a wall-type memorial, sometimes enough gases build up that make the body basically explode, sending guts around the ground. In Formula 1, safety belts were not mandatory until 1972. Before then, drivers believed it better to be ejected in a crash and die instantly instead from a broken neck or bones, as the alternative, they thought, was to be trapped and essentially cremated alive should the gas tanks ignite. A professor at my lecture today said that deer will lay on decaying corpses because they produce heat and like that. Basically, deer treat corpses like their personal sauna. An adult human body impacting on concrete does not sound organic or wet at all. It reminded me more of a car accident more than anything. Source: last week someone committed suicide by jumping off of the building I live in. I heard the impact and saw the body when I walked out onto my terrace to see what was going on. Second morbid fact from the same source: the human brain looks far more white and pink when it gets ejected from the skull. I always thought a live brain would be red from blood in it, but I was wrong. A body can swell to 3 times its normal size, especially if the person passes away in a bathtub. I will never forget the time when I was a teenager surfing rotten.com, as we all did, and seeing an image of a man who died in the bath. He had a device that kept the water warm, so by the time he was found he had already turned into a human stew. I still can't eat stew. You can tell someone is dead by trying to move their jaw. It's one of the first parts to show signs of rigidity. Before you die, your last words could be "I don't feel so good." I was a paramedic for 15 years and heard dozens of people's final words. The phrase I heard most often, possibly from half to 3/4 of them, was some form of "I don't feel so good," and I've also heard "wait, something's wrong. Something's happening. I don't feel right. Wait, something's wrong. It's happening. Oh no, oh no." People feel the blood leaving the brain, I think. Must be like a rush. If you want to dump a body, it can take 2 to 4 weeks to decompose if out in the open, but if you bury it in a casket it can take up to 44 years. The whole of your erection lasts longer than 4 hours. Receive immediate medical attention. Or whatever is the reason why the Brazilian wandering spider, located in the Amazon, is so dangerous. Its bite is supposed to make you have an erection for a long time, and it's pretty hard to find medical services when you're in the Amazon. What happens with erections is that fills up the penis and stays there until the erection is gone. If the blood stays for longer than 4 hours, the blood is deprived of oxygen. It can turn into a jelly-like substance with lots of clotting, so leaving it untreated could clog you up as the blood flows back. By the time you get to a doctor, they have 2 options. One is to get a 60 ml syringe and needle and remove the blood that's the consistency of toothpaste while flushing regularly with salt water to clear out the coagulated blood. The second option, usually saved for last bid measures, is to vertically insert a small blade inside of the meter/slit in the head and twist the blade 90 degrees, allowing the wound to drain. After the Pulse night shooting, when the cops were investigating, you'd think it was pretty quiet there. It was actually a cacophony of ringing cell phones. So many friends and loved ones calling people they knew who were there, hoping they'd answer the phone saying they're okay. A similar thing happened during 9/11. Firefighters have a PASS device, personal alert safety system, that is paired with their breathing apparatus that rings when they are incapacitated to alert for help. After the towers fell, you could hear many of these devices chirping in the debris. This makes me sick to my stomach. My dad is a police officer and has said that ringing cell phones at car accident sites are really hard, mostly because the people calling are usually wondering why the person is late to wherever they are going. I can't imagine just a whole room going off and knowing that all of those people's lives are never going to be the same. It is way easier to break someone's ribs in CPR, and it feels really weird. Pop 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 like bubble wrap. Although you can break ribs, most of the popping is from costal cartilage. As a strigosaur cuts through a skull cap during an autopsy, the smell created is exactly like Fritos. When drilling into teeth, the smell that occurs also smells like Fritos. The same thing for sawing through bone for an amputation. Source: am a veterinary technician that's assisted with many tooth extractions, where the tooth has to be cut in half to be properly extracted, and has assisted in amputations. On Mount Everest you have the Rainbow Valley, the last zone to climb to reach the peak. Which sounds cute, but it's really just the colorful jackets of dead climbers who are frozen in time against the white harsh snow. Also, when close to the peak the oxygen levels are so low that the body is starting to die. You only have a few minutes to reach the top. The dolphin from the television show Flipper simulated suicide. You have to understand that dolphins and whales are not breathers like we are. Every breath they take is a conscious effort. They can end their life whenever. Quote, she swam into my arms and looked me right in the eye, took a breath and didn't take another one. I let her go and she sank straight down on her belly to the bottom of the tank. If you wrap a body in barbed wire and throw it into a body of water it will not float to the top. The expanding gases force the skin to expand against the barbed wire and then puncture, releasing the gases. One whole roll of barbed wire is also sufficient enough in weight to keep the body submerged during the off-gassing process. Police in some jurisdictions will look for barbed wire purchase at stores as telltales sometimes. You have to have life insurance for 2 years before they'll pay out for suicide. Second-hand fact, so I'm hoping I'm right. Dying due to being encased in concrete is horrifying. You don't crush or asphyxiate so much as burn, as the concrete sucks all of the moisture out of your body. Also it lets off heat as it dries. Probably the worst way I can think of. Not so much burned as cooked. The concrete heats slowly enough that assuming you can breathe you'll cook to death, rather than die from burns. Death by strangulation can turn teeth pink. The stress on the pulp chambers causes it to hemorrhage, so the blood fills the inside of the teeth cavities. The song Baby Shark is actually the perfect rhythm to guide infant CPR. When a pregnant woman dies, if the fetus cannot be saved then it is removed from the mother body. This is because, when a human body decomposes it fills with various fluids and gases which can move organs and apply pressure to the uterus. If the fetus was left inside the mother the fluid and gas buildup would likely push the fetus corpse out of the mother birth canal in a post-mortem birth. This phenomenon is called coffin birth. Coffin birth is so common that in the era of vampires and witches it was believed that the deceased babies born in the coffin were demonic entities that would burrow from the grave and attack the living. This myth is the basis for several monsters in video games and movies. Coffin births have been discovered in major archaeological sites across the world, and some of the corpses can be found mummified and on display in museums such as the Museum Death in California and Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. A random duck flew into a window one day and died on impact. Another duck came along and repaired the corpse. This went on for more than an hour, with the living duck only taking between 2 and 3 minute breaks. When Dutch researcher Kes Molliker approached the scene, the rapist was reluctant to leave his partner behind. Even when he retrieved the dead duck and brought it indoors, the other duck was presumably looking for its long deceased mate. If you think that's bizarre, I would like to remind you that the average duck phallus is a corkscrew-shaped 9-inch long noodle that sometimes comes with barbs. I would also like to add that both ducks were male, making this a case of homosexual necrophilia. In the event of a water landing, flight attendants are specifically required to not allow dead bodies on life rafts. No saving your dead parents, children, or spouse for burial. Eat that BTCH overboard. On airplanes they turn the lights off before takeoff and upon landing in anticipation of the plane crashing. Your eyes take time to adjust to the dark, so if the plane were to crash your eyes would be pre-adjusted, thus increasing your likelihood of being able to make it out. They also ask that window blinds be open in order to allow anyone outside to be able to see in to check for survivors. Turtles follow light when they hatch. At night the brightest light is artificial. Baby turtles follow this light instead of the moon, dehydrate and then die. Flash photography blinds newly hatched turtles. They only see light, they go in circles, they die. As a woman you can die from having too much rough sex. The cervix is the most well-bled part of the female body after the heart, and internal hemorrhages in your womb are very commonly lethal. It's how unlucky moms died giving birth. Blood loss from a torn cervix. As for men, you die from blood loss from having your DCK cut off. Same reason, it's ridiculously well bled and will require immediate medical attention. You get less time for necrophilia than grave robbing, so if you get caught grave robbing,